A year ago, AI was mostly something I talked to. I'd ask it a question, ask for some code, maybe have it explain something, or help me debug a problem. Then, I started using Windsurf as my development environment, and that felt like a huge leap. Now AI wasn't just answering questions. It understood my codebase. It could modify files. It could implement features. It could run things and help me figure out what went wrong. That alone radically changed how I develop software. But what's happened since then is much bigger. Today, when I sit down at my computer, I might have 10 or 12 terminals open. Claude might be working on one E3D repository. Codex might be working on another. Another AI might be reviewing a specification. Another might be challenging an architectural decision. And several of them may be implementing completely different projects at the same time. At some point, I realized I'm not really programming the way I used to program. I'm orchestrating. And I think that distinction is important. For the first few years of generative AI, we mostly experienced AI through a chat window. You ask something, it answers. You ask something else, it answers again. That's incredibly useful. But agents are fundamentally different. Agents can actually do stuff. They can read a repository. They can create and modify files. They can run commands. They can execute tests. They can inspect the results. They can find problems. They can fix those problems. And increasingly, they can work with other AI systems to accomplish something that might previously have required an entire development team. That has completely disrupted the way I work. I've also stopped starting projects by immediately writing code. I start with an idea, then I write a specification, usually with AI helping me. Then I'll have other AIs critique it. What's missing? What assumptions are wrong? Is there a simpler architecture? What happens when this fails? Is this even worth building? Sometimes I'll effectively have AIs debate the idea before anybody writes a line of code. We refine the spec until I'm comfortable with it. Then Claude can take that specification and run it through Codex Spec Runner, which breaks the work down, implements it, tests it, reviews it, and iterates. Idea, specification, debate, refinement, implementation, testing, review, iteration. Except the really strange part is that this can be happening on several projects simultaneously. That's where things get interesting, and occasionally ridiculous. I'll have terminals scattered across my screen. One AI is asking permission to run something. Another has encountered a design question and needs my decision. Another finished 20 minutes ago and is waiting for me. Another just needs me to type continue. And I'm sitting there trying to remember which AI was doing what. That's actually becoming one of my biggest bottlenecks. Not writing the code. Maintaining context. Deciding where my attention is most valuable. Making decisions for multiple agents that are all working at the same time. That's a very different problem from the software development problems I've spent most of my career solving. And something else unexpected happened along the way. It changed what I wanted to build. E3D began primarily around blockchain and crypto intelligence. I'm still very interested in those things. But once the cost, in time and effort, of experimenting with software dropped dramatically, my universe of possible projects expanded. I started asking, why not build this? Could an agent do that? What if these two systems work together? What happens if instead of putting an AI chatbot inside an application, the AI actually runs part of the application? E3D Trade, E3D Pilot, E3D Corp, Pod to Vid, and others. Some use a single AI, some use several, and some are experiments in having multiple specialized agents work together toward a common objective. That's probably the area I'm most fascinated by right now, because I think we're moving from software that has AI features to software in which AI agents are actual participants in the system. They have roles, they have tools, they have context. They make decisions, they perform actions, they evaluate results, and they collaborate. That opens up an enormous design space. It has also changed my own role. I spend less time asking how am I going to code this, and more time asking, should this exist, what should it do, how should the system work, what does this agent need to know, what tools should it have, how much autonomy should it have, how do we know whether it succeeded, and what should still require a human decision. I find that enormously rewarding. I'm spending more of my time thinking about ideas, products, architectures, and systems, and less time fighting implementation details. There are downsides. AI makes it incredibly easy to create software, which also makes it incredibly easy to create software nobody needs. Agents make mistakes. Context gets lost. Different models behave differently. You have to learn when to trust them and when to inspect their work. And managing multiple agents creates an entirely new kind of cognitive overload, but those feel like solvable problems. The productivity increase is already extraordinary. And maybe the most interesting example is the video you're watching right now. I didn't manually produce it. One of the projects that came out of this new way of working is called Pod to Vid. I can give Pod to Vid something like this transcript, and AI helps turn it into the finished video you're watching. So AI helped me think through the idea. AI helped me write in the software. AI agents helped implement and test the software. And now that software is using AI to help tell you the story about how AI changed the way I build software. That's a little recursive, but it's also a pretty good demonstration of what I'm talking about. I've learned an enormous amount going through this transition, mostly by building things, getting things wrong, changing my workflow, comparing different models, and figuring out where agents are incredibly effective and where humans still matter. I keep hearing people ask how much more productive AI will make software developers. 20%, 50%, 2 times, 10 times. I'm starting to think that's the wrong question, because what's happening to me doesn't feel like doing the same job faster. The job itself is changing. AI started as something I chatted with, then it became something that helped me code. Now I'm giving agents objectives and watching them actually do the work. And increasingly, I'm building systems where those agents aren't just helping create the product, they are part of the product. I don't know exactly where that leads, but I'm having a hell of a lot of fun finding out. And I'd love to share what I've learned with other developers, founders, and companies who are interested in making the same transition. You can see more about what I'm doing at futco.ai. And if you'd rather just look at the code, most of these projects are open source in my GitHub repositories at github.com/spacepacket1.